want a slight visual indicator. Okay, just a little notch. Don't hit too hard. That's purely where we're going to start squishing the steel to actually make a flat board. Find my little notch. There we go. Over the board of the anvil, I'm going to start digging my steel. Don't worry about it going out of shape. All we want to do is create a little notch. Okay, so I'm looking for that transition in there. There's obviously a piece of round ball. Alright. You decide the length of what you want your blade to be. X inches or millimeters, decide, doesn't matter, and then you give it a little ding. Right. But the whole idea here is to where you've got that ding, is to now go and work to rounded shoulders into a flat. So if I do that, into a flat. Okay? So that's what we want. Easy enough? Okay, so we started by taking that round bar, side on view, by swishing into half rounds. Okay, almost to the thickness that I want. The thickness that we're going for is a third of the actual thickness of my stock ball. Okay, so a third of the thickness of the stock ball. Okay. Now what can I use to do this? I can do 2 pieces of round bar. One that I like, and these are just short pieces of round bar that you can put on your anvil, and then another one which is a longer bar. So that one is on your anvil. It also helps if you just weld that onto a piece of plate so it doesn't roll around, and then put the one at the top, and then you hammer down. Will create your 2 round bars, or 2 little notches. Okay. Or you can just use the horn of the anvil like I just did, or you can use a press which has got this as a die set in there, so we're just going to press it. That's it. You can also use the handles on your top knife. Put that on there. And that'll give me a smaller indentation. Once I've got my indentation, is to obviously then go and flatten out the front part. Okay? This is when you start hammering hard. It's not done yet, but as you can see the metal is cooling down. The cooler the metal, the harder the metal is. Right. So what is the temperature that you can start working the steel at? Is 723 degrees Celsius. Incidentally, exactly the temperature where the steel loses its ability to be attracted by a magnet. In other words, the molecules in the steel is vibrating at such a rate that the magnetic field surrounding a magnet no longer has an effect on it. It doesn't mean anything that you've learned in school is all of a sudden out of the window. Okay? There's a magnet. You can see as it cools down, it's starting to be attracted. Where the bar is still cold, it sticks. Now I'm going to take a piece of steel that's hot, out of the forge, doesn't stick. So that's your visual indicator. That's where you start hammering steel. If it doesn't stick to a magnet, you can start hammering it. But more importantly, it's also the exact moment when you stop hammering steel. So as soon as it sticks, you stop. Alright. There's only one rule. Do not hit black steel. Okay? So it's black, in other words, sticks to a magnet, don't hit it. Right. What we have is, this is now off center and we want to bring it into center. So I'm going to lie it over with the horn of my anvil and just hit on the ricasso area. And as you can see, slowly but surely, it's bringing it back into center. I'm going to flip it around, using the heel of my blade, of my hammer, and there we go. So that's better, more in center, center. Okay, the next step would be to start forming the tip on your bar. Okay. You'll notice I've got my bar at an angle, I'm going to hammer at an angle. So what I want to do is I want to hammer a bit of a spear point into the tip of my bar. As soon as the metal starts deforming, you can see that? Lie flat and I take the deformation up. Okay, then I can continue forging. If I've got my hammer over the edge of the anvil, I can actually get to the tip. If I forge in the middle of the anvil, I'm actually going to be hitting my anvil more than I'm hitting the steel. Okay, so over the tip of the anvil, over the edge of the anvil, forging down the tip, and then flashing the tip out. Okay, making sure that the tip is around about the same thickness as the rest of my bar. Okay? Okay, so the next step would be taking that spear point, cleaning it just up ever so slightly. You'll notice that large amounts of fire scale, which is something you obviously don't want. But then what we're going to do is we're going to move that tip over. So I've got that. Now I'm going to start drawing the heel of my knife. And I'm going to do that over the horn of the anvil with the heel of my hammer. So this little corner here, over the horn of the anvil, and my hammer is at a slight angle. Okay, until I've got that. You'll notice I didn't hit on the roundings, on the shoulders of the bar. I hit just on that little lip to draw the steel out. On the next heat, we're obviously going to straighten everything out and then work that cutting edge all the way to the tip. Yeah? Safety tip. Do that, not this. Don't do this, your beard will never be the same again. Okay, so now we've got that wonkiness, so the first step is obviously just to straighten things out. Okay, and now I'm going to start working that edge to the same thickness. Notice my steel is at an angle, my hammer is at an angle. And what I want to do is I want to work out or forge down that back piece, the heel of the knife, until it's at the same thickness as the piece that I've just brought on before I continue on to the next one. Flipping my steel ensures that things stay straight, stay centered, and you'll notice I'm only hammering halfway up the steel. So in other words, only half the steel do I want to pull out to an edge. And I'm losing color, therefore losing heat. Back to the forge. Ready for my... Yep. Okay, so now I'll continue working on that. And obviously as I get to the tip of my blade, there's less material to work. So I'm working it so it's softer. And this is where you need to ensure that you're constantly looking at what you're doing to make sure that you're not hitting that edge too thick. And you'll see that little protrusion I have there. Putting it down like that and just hitting it at the top will hammer that protrusion back into itself. Therefore cleaning up your cutting edge. And I'm losing heat again, so it's back to the forge. Okay, so all I'm going to do now is just make sure that my edge is still the same thickness all the way through. I'm now going to clean up that cutting edge by hitting on the spine. And that will do a matter of straightening. So I can do this to straighten my blade out. Okay, I can also turn it around, and as per some of the previous videos, use the broadness of my hammer down on the entire thing to straighten things up. You obviously want that blade a tad hotter than this, and then after you've hit it from the cutting edge, you just want to make sure your cutting edge is still straight. It doesn't matter whether it's not in center on the heels or the shoulders at this point. All I want is a straight cutting edge and a straight spine. Okay, so this little wonkiness that we see there, that'll sort out in the next heat. Okay, so to sort that out, what I'm going to do is literally just lie down on the anvil and hit on the top or on my cutting edge to drive the spine down. Now what I have done is created a bit of a recurve, but it's not like you don't know how to draw that out again. Almost there. And now my blows are a lot softer, a lot more controlled. And there we go. Okay, so this is the previous method. I just want to show you this in one go. So once your steel is all nice and hot, it's just a single blow. That's it. To straighten that spine out completely. Now obviously you sit down with a wonky edge. So all you need to do now is spend time like that my blows, just bringing things back into alignment. Yeah? I want to make that a slight drop point, not that much. There we go. So just getting things nice and flat now. I'm obviously working at the lower spectrum of the heat range, but still sticking to above non-magnetic. Okay, so now all I want to do is decide my final shape on this, sort this chipper by using a slight deflector flow. And yeah, that's about it. So now I'm going to spend time just refining this shape. Getting my flats nice and flat. Quite happy with that. Now you'll notice a bit of a wonkiness. I've gone off center at the shoulders here, so now I'm going to spend time on the next heat to bring that shoulder into center. Okay, so I'm onto a 1 kilogram hammer, and all I want to do is work that little shoulder, bringing things into the center, working on that little concision. Now you'll notice that the blade is offset to the one side. Okay, so I'm taking the highest section, now I'm going to hit on that high spot and just drive my blade over. And there we go. A slight little pump there, which I'm going to work out. There you go, my blade's in the center. That's it. Now I'm just going to straighten things out. You'll notice a bit thinner here than in that area there, so I'm going to thin that out. And then my blade is pretty much done. Okay, coming in, what I want to do is just work on the spine a tad, just thinning things out. Getting a bit of a distal taper running to my tip. Just going to be really quick, working on both sides. While I'm at it, just ironing out a couple of the high spots. That's it. So what I would like to do is just lift that tip up ever so slightly, but we'll do that when I do the final straightening. So the next step would be working on to the handle. Okay, so what we have now is we've got a bar. Blade's done. So now what we want to do is we want to give it a 1 inch spacing on that side, so 1 inch or 25 millimeters spacing, and then I want to start forging that. Okay, so seen from the top, let's draw, oh my word, don't wipe it out. Okay, so drawn from the top, what I have is I've got my shoulders going into my blade. Alright, now I want to do a taper at the back. Okay, so that taper runs up and then curves up. Once that is done, I'm going going to start forging at the back of my bar. So as I'm forging, this thing is going to flare out like that. It's going to fishtail to both sides. I'm then going to hammer from the bottom, and I'm going to bring all of this slide downward its curve, and it does that. Doesn't make sense? But it should make sense. Let's go do it. Okay, so I've heated up my handle. So now I need to decide how long my handle is going to be. And I'm going to start at the back of it, and I'm going to start flattening it. Now the handle, we want it parallel to the actual cutting edge, right? I'm going to start flaring out, just flattening a section of my bar at the back. Don't care if it's in the center. All I want to do, I just want to start flattening. Now I'm going to walk that flat up my bar, creating a taper. Okay, if you want that taper to be nice and flat on both sides, constantly flip your steel over. Remember, I mentioned that we stop 2 centimeters or 20 millimeters from that ricotta. From that plunge there, we want to stop right there. Okay, so that's what I'm looking for. Now the rest of your heats will be spent just refining that, getting that nice and flat, and then finishing the blade shaper. So the first thing I want to do is obviously just straight out my bar. Okay, and now I'm going to work on my taper at the back to add more. And obviously as I'm tapering, my fine knife handle is flaring out. It's becoming broader. It's still keeping that roundness from the bar in play. And I'm liking the thickness I have there, so I'm flipping my bar over, hammering on the opposite side, and what that does is it automatically flattens up the other side. So now it's a matter of flipping, hitching, and every single time I run up the bar, I'm hammering a tad softer, and that has a leveling effect on everything. You'll see how nice and flat that surface area is now on both sides. Yeah, gentlemen, and then what you do is you make sure that the center of mass here, the center of mass there, and on my tip everything is in alignment. I can literally draw a straight line through the center of that, flip it over, and do the same thing here. So that center of mass there, my heel, and the edge. And what I now want to do is I want to move this down. So just starting at the approach of my knife, soft blows. All I want to do is I want to curve it. There we go. So I can also work over a hole in my anvil, the hardy hole, lightly tap in there, and that will also bend the handle to the one side. That's it. So now it's a matter of just making sure everything is nice and straight, and then go into normalizing. Okay, so now we're doing normalizing. This forge is set from an oxidizing environment, in other words a lot of oxygen being induced into the forge, to a reducing environment, so the flame is on the outside, so a lot less oxygen, the flame, obviously the forge is a lot colder, so we'll turn it into a neutral environment. Okay, so what I'm going to do now is I'm going to soak the handle part of the knife and build up a heat reservoir in there. From there, once the heat reservoir is built up, once the heat reservoir is built up, I'm going to start going in and out into my forge. Okay, so the heat is starting to build up in my handle. Now the whole idea here is to just be above non-magnetic, but I want to get rid of all the shadows in my steel. soon as it loses magnetism, then I want to stop at my second cycle. On my third cycle, I want to be the same color right through, but the entire knife still sticking on to the magnet. Right? Everyone got that? First cycle, above non-magnetic. Second cycle, at non-magnetic. Third cycle, below non-magnetic. Yeah? So that's normalizing. It relieves the stresses in the steel.